We can now bring in Oliver McTernan, co-founder and director at Forward Thinking. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today. What is Benjamin Netanyahu's end goal here? Because on one hand, he says Operation Gideon's Chariots is being led with great force, yet on the other, he suggests he's being pressured by allies to let aid in. What does he want exactly? What's he trying to achieve?
Well, I think he's consistent since he started this war in response to the October 7th attacks, and that is being to try and eliminate Hamas from Gaza. And I think that is one thing he is being his prime objective. I personally think that the release of the hostages has been a secondary agenda, that he believes that through this sort of military pressure that he will succeed in bringing the hostages home. And I think the last 19 months has proven different, that it's only through negotiations that you will get the remaining hostages back to their families.
Because what has Israel been able to achieve in terms of its war goals since the 18th of March when it resumed the war? Have they secured the release of any hostages? Have they defeated Hamas?
Well, the only release really has been through what the mediation of the Qataris, as the Qatari Prime Minister said way back in January 24, it wasn't through bombing that we got the hostages back, but through mediation and negotiation. I think what he has achieved, in my opinion, and I've been looking at the region for over 20 years now, intimately involved in it. What, in my opinion, is happening is that Israel is actually becoming less secure, because when the wider region, the neighboring countries, look at the inhumane happenings in Gaza, the suffering of the people, the continual bombing, when they observe all of these things, I think it becomes very clear to them that the respect for humanity isn't there, the respect for international norms isn't there, and I think post-Netanyahu, it will be very difficult for Israel to renegotiate its relationships with its immediate neighbors. Whatever the American policy may be, I think the importance is that it is seen as part of the region and integrated into the region. And I think every day is making that task much, much more difficult.
Oliver, you know that there's been this Israeli aid blockade in Gaza that's been in effect for over 10 weeks now, 2.5 months or so. Now Netanyahu says he's going to allow limited aid, which is 20 trucks. I'm no expert, but I can tell you that every aid organization will say that is a drop in the bucket for what the enclave actually needs. How is it that Israel's European allies, I know Israel takes direction from what Donald Trump has to say, but the European allies specifically have been very, very meek when it comes to standing up to Israel?
I think you're dead right. I'm no expert on aid either, but I do know people involved in it in Gaza. I know we have a group of British doctors there at the moment. There is a massive crisis in Gaza on not just food, but on medicine, everything else. I'm appalled by the lack of direct response from Europe. It's fine saying, oh, we're concerned or we're worried, but what I'm witnessing, and I get videos every night and conversations with people in Gaza, I think what we're witnessing is what I would say morally reprehensible. We can argue over the political or the legal niceties, is this genocide or not. I think clearly what it is, it's something morally reprehensible and undermining, I would say, the whole rule-based order that was established post-World War II. I mean, what does the Geneva Convention mean now? What people are forgetting, Gaza in international law is an occupied territory, that the occupier has under international law an obligation to protect the occupied people, not to starve them or bomb them into submission or, worse still, involuntary evacuation and migration. But frankly, that's what we're witnessing. And I think the present government in Israel is actually doing the country and its security and its future a lot of damage through ignoring the very structures that helped establish Israel as a state, the UN declaration in 48.
Israeli officials have openly been calling for Gazans to leave the enclave. I'm just curious, since you've been having conversations with people inside Gaza, what do those sort of statements mean to them?
Well, I think the one quality that Gazans have is resilience. And I've witnessed now, this is the fourth war that I've witnessed in Gaza. I think all it does is stiffen the general population, stiffen their resistance to remain where they have their home and where their memories and everything else is. I think it's Netanyahu is, if the population of Gaza is to migrate, I think it will be totally involuntary, and it will be a sort of forced migration by creating just totally inhumane circumstances. But I think it's a foolish pursuit of the military goals of Netanyahu at the moment. I think as I keep coming back, he's not making Israel a more secure place, which was the objective, the return of the hostages, and guarantee the security of Israel in its future. I think it's putting that security at risk through this sort of activity.
So what do you make of the negotiations that are underway to secure the release of hostages? Do you think Israel's not serious about them?
Well, I've been talking to people involved in those negotiations, and frankly, the feeling is that it's not a serious effort. You know, that sometimes there's posturing for whether it's America or the international community. They're at an impasse. I understand that on the one hand, the Hamas position is for a comprehensive whole thing, that all of the prisoners are released for an end of the war and a withdrawal of the Israeli forces from Gaza. Now, I believe what Israel has put on the table is a ceasefire when half of the hostages would be released, and then it wouldn't be a withdrawal of the Israeli forces. So I think there is a total impasse there. And who is suffering but the ordinary people of Gaza. And I would stress, too, the families of the hostages and the hostages themselves.
Indeed. Oliver McTernan, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today.